Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Friday, which means it's time for a review show revisited. Now, Fridays on Magic TV, I kind of use them for various different things. Sometimes I'll do a list of things. Sometimes I'll do kind of a mini rant. But my favourite thing to do on a Friday is the review show revisited. And it takes a little bit of time to do them. I can't do them every week because I've got to go out and I've got to get live performance footage. It's probably one of the longest videos I have to do outside of the Talk Magics. So yeah, I'm back here with another review show revisited this week. If you don't know what it is, the idea is very simple. I take tricks that we have reviewed on the actual show, and myself and Ryland go and perform them in the real world, and I give you an opinion on what I think about them, see if it changes my opinion. Now, just to let you know, and I mentioned this on the podcast with Lloyd Barnes, I am planning on doing at some point soon a review show revisited all on Peter Egging products. It's something that I think would be quite interesting. I've been quite critical of Peter Egging on this channel over the course of the last, well, basically since I started the channel, for good reason in my opinion. However, I am going to do a review show revisited. I'm going to take a whole bunch of tricks that Peter's done. I'm going to do them in the real world and see if they suck as hard as I think they will. I would love to be wrong. On this channel just a few weeks ago, I made a public apology to Steve Lancaster because I said the doozy deck wasn't very good, took it in the real world. Turns out it is really good. So we're going to have that coming up soon, at some point, probably in the next 4 weeks. But today, myself and Ryland took 3 products out into the real world. So the idea is we're going to talk about the 3 products, show you the performance, and then I'm also going to do the performance again with a commentary track over the top. I know that people who watch Magic TV dig the commentary track, so I'm going to do that as well. Yeah, and we'll see if the grade gets changed based on the performance in the real world. So without further ado, let's have a look at the first product. So this is by Adam Wilbur of Vulpine Creations, and this was reviewed very recently. Actually, this was only reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Myself and Ryland gave this a really good review, and the reason we gave it a really good review is because, to be honest, it just was commercial. You could just tell from looking at the trick that it's super commercial. Now, if you don't know what the trick is, it's basically a packet trick. You get a little wallet, and inside the wallet there is a packet of four cards. And you point out there's an envelope in there as well. You show the 4 cards, you have somebody think of one. When they think of one, you go through this whole thing where you say, you sure you want this one? And then eventually, and this is the real killer moment of this routine, you say, hey, you're probably wondering, you've got questions. Well, let me show you the questions. And all of the cards change to blank cards with words on them. You'll see a presentation in a minute. And then the card that they thought of ultimately is in the envelope in the wallet, and it's a free choice of card. Really nice routine. Justin Miller and Adam Wilbur came up with this during lockdown, I believe, and it's now out officially through Vulpine Creations. So we gave it a really good review, and it's got a lot of plus points going for it. First of all, it doesn't really require a table. Second of all, it's quite an engaging presentation. Third of all, it's an instant reset. It's easy to do. There's not really any difficult moves, and the tutorial that Adam did was very, very thorough. So I assume that this will get a really good reaction in the real world. I'm going to show you a performance now of me performing it in the real world. Now, this is at a gig that I did on New Year's Day at a place called Nailcoat Hall, and which is one of my favourite venues to perform in. So it was a 40th birthday party, I believe. So let's have a look at this footage first of all, and then I'll talk about how that affects the rating. Guys, I'm going to show you something incredible using the wallet. Now, inside this wallet, there's 2 things. There's a little envelope. See the envelope? Now, what's your name? Harry. Now, I'm going to try and do something with you now, okay? Now, it doesn't matter what these playing cards are, it's important that there's 4 playing cards, yeah? A 7 of clubs, a 3 of hearts, we've got a 3 of clubs, and a 7 of hearts. 4 cards. You get a free choice of any one of those cards. I'm going to show you something incredible. You get a free choice of any one of those cards. I promise you,
that when you see what I'm about to do, it's going to lead to a lot of questions. Which card would you like? Queen of Hearts. Would you like to change your mind? I don't want you saying later on I've made you pick the wrong cards. You're happy with the Queen of Hearts. If you went for the Queen of Hearts, watch the Queen. I'm going to put it into your hand. And when I do this, you have questions. The first question is, what just happened to the faces of the cards? The next question is, where did the backs go? The next question is, why did this happen? And the next question is, when did it happen? Because this is weird, there's no fronts, there's no backs. But your card, what's currently in the Queen of Hearts, your card now says, look at the wallet. And the reason it says look at the wallet is because inside the wallet, do you remember the envelope? You can pick any card. Inside here, one card,
There you go. So that is a full performance. Now, a few things that I'll point out about that performance. And this came from working it in a bit in the real world. So that wasn't the first time that I performed it. I performed it over the previous week or two as well. And there's a few things that I discovered. So first of all, when Adam does this, and this is really down to personal opinion, but when Adam does this, he has some money in the wallet and he talks about, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to win some money. And I love using money as a hook when I'm performing. It just fits with my character absolutely great. My character is all about like giving people a chance to win money and then not actually having them win it. However, I thought for me personally, having the money in the wallet was a bit of a distraction. I didn't think it needed it. So you'll see in that performance that I eliminated the money element of it completely. There's no mention about money. It was literally just a case of, hey, you want to see something really weird? I've got 4 cards here. Do you want to have a look at these 4 cards? And I don't mention the money at all. I don't think it detracts from the effect. Now, that's just my opinion. But you don't need money in this routine. That's the first thing I realised. The second thing is you probably noticed I was in quite a noisy environment. I had a saxophonist right next to me. At this table, right next to the saxophonist. And I was like, man, this is so loud. This is so noisy, right? And if you see me presenting it, I'm actually speaking quite loudly because I want to project to the whole table, whilst at the same time make sure everyone can hear me. It didn't affect the effect at all. There's some tricks that you learn that you do, and when you get into an environment like that, you just think, damn, there's no way I'm going to do that because it's 99% projection, it's 99% talking, and it's like 1% magical moments. That's not the case with this. And if you are performing in a noisy environment, whether it be a bar or maybe a wedding or a corporate event where there's a DJ playing, don't think that this trick can't be done because it can. The other thing that I learned about this trick is, and this has come from a conversation with my friend Lloyd Barnes, and it's actually a really nice idea that's well worth sharing. Now, he mentioned this to me on the podcast on Wednesday. So if you haven't seen Wednesday's Magic podcast with me and Lloyd Barnes, check it out. This is Lloyd's idea, but it's a really clever idea. He suggests when you buy the trick and you learn the method, instead of having 4 cards, have 5 cards. I'll let you work out how you can actually do it with 5 cards, but it's very, very easy. And then have the 5 cards, have 5 specific cards so that you can fish with one question and get the correct card. So you would take the 5 cards out and you would show them and you'd say, just think of one of those cards. And you go, okay, fantastic. Let me work out what the name of your card is. Your card is a red card, is it not? And they go, no, and you go, yeah, that's what I said, it's not a red card. But just by getting one question wrong, it's quite easy to pick 5 cards and have those 5 cards, the 5 cards that you mean, so that with one question, you can work out exactly what the card is. And Lloyd's idea behind this is that way you don't actually have them name a card, you can have them just think of a card. 5 cards, they think of one of them, and then you go into the same routine. It changes the handling slightly, but it's a nice idea. If that's something that you want to do, you could actually do that relatively easily. You would just need, for anybody who's got the wallet, and I don't want to give methods away here, if anybody's got the wallet, you would need a slightly different method to reveal it. But if you're struggling as to how, if you like that idea and you're struggling with how to come up with a way of doing Lloyd's idea, just let me know and I'll run through with you exactly how I think it could be done. So yeah, there's another idea. But ultimately, this is a really strong trick. And I knew it would be. I know there's certain stuff that you know what? It's weird. When I do the reviews, there's certain tricks and I go, you know what? I'm going to give this a good review. And I give it a good review because I genuinely think, right, this is going to be good. This is a good trick. If it gets over 80%, I'm more than happy to do it in my act. And then there's certain tricks that when I then go and do them in the real world, I'm kind of feeling a bit apprehensive, just a little bit, because I'm like, oh, I hope this goes well. I hope it plays as well as I hope it will. And no apprehension, no nerves, no nothing with this. I just knew, shoved it straight into my pocket. The first time I went to a gig, I learnt it, took it to a gig, and it just killed. It just killed. And it killed straight away. And normally, when I perform a trick for the first time in the real world, I'm like, right, okay, I need to change this and this and this. But I didn't feel like I needed to change anything other than the money thing. I did the money for the first gig, probably did it like 6 times. I was like, I'm taking that money out of there. It doesn't need the money. And then that's the only thing I changed. So yeah, it's really great products. I think we gave it 95% or 98%. Both myself and Ryland gave it 98%. Ryland's not here with me today, but we both agree that this needs to get 100%. So we're upping this to 100%. In my opinion, 100% means there's no flaws. There are no flaws in this routine. It is super commercial, super easy to do, no angles, no problems, very clear for the audience to follow what's going on. It's almost the perfect packet trick. And in my opinion, it's one of the best packet tricks in the last year that's come out on the magic market. So there you go. You can get it directly from Vulpine Creations. You can also get it from All Good Magic Dealers because Adam and Felix put it into All Good Magic Dealers through Murphy's Magic. So you can get it from All Good Magic Dealers, or you can go directly to Vulpine and support the creators of the effect. So there you go. That is the first review show revisited. I'm now going to play the footage again for you very quickly with a commentary track over the top so you can just get my thoughts of what I was doing while I was doing it, and then we're going to move on to the next trick. So I've been banging on about this trick for a very, very long time, and ever since I first saw Adam do it, I've been banging on about it, and I really do think it's such a good trick. Now, notice I'm doing this at a table. But it is just as easy to do walk around, and that's one of the nice things about this. This was actually part of a table that had about 7 or 8 people around it, and it's just as visible for those 7 or 8 people as it is for the 2 people I'm performing it to. I do like to actually focus the performance on the 2 people that are next to me, but you'll see that I'm actually involving people as well. Now, you see there's a frustration count going on here. The one thing I'd like to point out with the frustration count is you don't want to do the whole thing where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you make it look like a very regimented count. You're just kind of displaying the cards, and you're not saying all the backs are there. That does telegraph the count a little bit. I have 4 cards, they have backs, and they have faces. That does telegraph it a little bit. It's nicer to just say, hey, I've got 4 cards here, they're all different, it's not really about the cards. And I think this trick lives and dies by the fact that they understand they have a free choice. So I like to make them understand that they absolutely have a completely free choice. Now, the strength for this trick, for me, is the moment that the faces and the backs disappear, because it's not framed as an actual moment. They're not expecting it. So that when you do this, look at that woman's face. Did you see how taken aback she was? And then you turn them over and you show the other sides. You see how taken aback she is? The reason she's taken aback like that is because she didn't expect it. It's not like I'm saying, I'm going to make these cards disappear on the fronts and the backs. It's framed in a completely different way. And Adam's genius routining by putting that card in her hand, you can see right there. Now, notice she reached for the wallet. I don't want her to take the wallet. So notice I reached over and just grabbed it and pulled it towards myself. It's important that, and that comes from experience. If somebody's reaching for your props, it wasn't because she thought that the wallet was dodgy or anything. It was just because I told, she saw on the thing, it's in the wallet, and she was reaching to check. But you need to be aware of those things. You need to be so far ahead of the audience that you can deal with any problems. And you see from the big round of applause at the end, it's such a strong trick. And it really is a very strong trick that's well worth learning and performing. Okay, so this is trick number 2, and it's very stark contrast to the first trick, because with the first trick, it was one of the latest things that we've reviewed. This second one is quite an older item. It's probably about 2 or 3 years old, and I reviewed it about a year ago on a 5x5. And I said at the time it's one of my favourite tricks, and it is. And I wanted to perform it for you so you can see why I love it so much. Now, this is a slightly different thing because I have done this for years, but I want to use this platform as a way to promote good magic as well. And I am, of course, talking about Any Card by Richard Sanders. Now, anybody who watches this channel and follows this channel will know that I'm a huge Richard Sanders fan. Richard Sanders, for me, is one of the best magicians of all time. I have never seen a bad Richard Sanders trick. His material is always strong, it's always commercial, it's always well thought out, and he's a very creative magician. Now, what we have here is Any Card. And Any Card, for me, is one of the best gaff decks on the market. Now, this is somebody who uses the invisible deck all the time. This is somebody who has marketed their own gaff decks over the years. And yet still I'm saying it's one of the best gaff decks in the world. Notice I say one of, not the, but it is one of the best gaff decks in the world. So what is it? Well, basically, if you've not seen my review on Any Card, the idea is simple. You bring the deck of cards out and you put it down in front of them. And you say, or you give it them in the hand. And you say, look, I've made a prediction inside that deck. I've turned the 4 aces over. And then what you do is you have them name a card. And it can be a free choice of card. There is no force whatsoever, which is one of the beautiful moments of this routine. So they name a card, there's no force. You then spread through and you show the 4 aces. And then you say, well, actually, these aces have got red backs because they're from a different deck. And I wrote on the back of all 4 of them. And when you turn them over, it says the blah, blah, blah. And it actually says the name of the card. Very commercial routine. Then you just put the cards away. And it's about a 20-second reset, 10, 15, 20-second reset before you go to the next table. So I gave it a great review. I gave it 100%. I said it's absolutely phenomenal. I said the only downside to some people is that the deck is not examinable in any way, shape or form. When you've done the routine, the deck is not examinable. That's the only negative that I could bring up. Now, let me go through full live performance of this so you can see it performed live and in person, and then after the live performance we'll talk about what we think.
We're going to do 2 very good tricks. What's your name, please? Tracy, how are you, Tracy? We're going to start with Tracy. Tracy, do me a favour, give me a trick to someone you can trust. Okay, no offense. That's fine, that's fine. You're going to be involved in the second trick. Okay, you're going to be involved in the first trick. I have a deck of playing cards. Can you hold your hand out for me? I'm going to put them right there. Now here's the thing, does anyone know how many cards there are in a pack of play cards? 52, by far. Amazing. 52 cards. There are not jokers in there. Now, I will tell you, I've done something weird with this pack of cards. I took the 4 aces out, I turned them over, and I put them into 4 different parts of the deck. So 4 aces face up, the rest of the cards are face down. What I'm going to do, I'm going to snap my fingers. When I do, you are going to name any one of the 52 cards. Now, there's a reason why I get her to name it. And the reason is, if I get you to pick a card, it's conceivable I can make you pick one. By you naming a card, it's a free choice. Now, do not go for an obvious card. Let me explain what an obvious card would be. If you get a lady to name a card, 99% of the time she'll name a Queen of Hearts. Anyone thinking of a Queen of Hearts? You were, weren't you? Okay, well, most people do. If you ask a guy to think of a card, they'll think of the King or the Ace of Spades. I can read it like a boxer. Now, you can go for an obvious card, or you can go for a random card. When I snap my fingers and give the name of that card, right now. 7 of diamonds, would you like to change your mind? I do not want you saying later on, Amy, you was Amy, right? I don't want you saying later on, I made you pick the Ace of Diamonds. I wouldn't. Craig was a pretty good magician, but he wouldn't let me change my mind. Are you happy with the 7 of diamonds? Amazing. Here's the thing, check this out. Look. I'm going to take the cards out of the box. You can hold on to the box. Everybody look. Do you remember what I did at the beginning? I took 4 cards and I flipped them over. Can you remember the 4 cards with 4 aces? Look at this. I'm going to take the 4 aces out. And you said the 7 of diamonds, didn't you? Look, there's the ace of hearts, there's the ace of clubs, there's the ace of diamonds, and there's the ace of spades. 4 aces. Now, there's the 4 aces facing the other direction. Hold your hand out, Amy. I will tell you I lied. I'm a magician, it's my job. I didn't take the 4 aces out of this deck and turn them over. I took 4 aces from a different pack. I took 4 aces from a red deck, and the reason is, when you write on the back of a red card, it's more visible. And I wrote on the back of each one of these cards. You've been holding this deck from the very beginning. You could have named any card, you named the 7 of diamonds. On the back of the ace of hearts, I wrote the. On the back of the ace of clubs, I wrote 7. On the back of the ace of diamonds, I wrote of. And guys, on the back of the ace of spades, I wrote diamonds. And I think that's pretty good. Definitely good enough for a big round of games.
So there you go, guys. That is Any Card by Richard Sanders. Now, I'm hoping if you've not seen this trick before, because I know there's a lot of people that watch this channel that are new into Magic and might not have seen my review on the 5x5. You might not have heard of Any Card. This might be the first time you've seen it. And if you have seen it, let me tell you right now, pause this video, go jump on your favourite Magic dealer's website and buy this. Buy this and buy it now, because it is incredible. There's literally... I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do this. So I love using it as kind of like a routine that I do after my opening routine, although it could work as an opener. I like using it as a kind of establish myself with something, then I go into Any Card. My friend Nemid Phoenix, for many, many years, closed his act with this. So he would literally put this deck down on the table at the very beginning, do his whole act, and he said, oh, the deck on the table, by the way, can you name a card? And they name a card, and he spreads through. And Nemeth does it really well, actually, because he gets them to name a card, and he gets 3 different people to name different parts of it. So it's you name a suit, you name a colour, you name a suit, you name a value, and he says, I've turned 1 card over in the deck, and I think that's the prediction. So it's kind of almost like an invisible deck. And then when he starts spreading, let's say the 5 of diamonds, he says, well, I completely got this wrong. Of course, I thought you were going to go for an ace. In fact, I was so confident you were going for an ace, I actually turned over the 4 aces. And it's kind of like that magician in trouble type scenario. And then he turns over and he shows that it says the name of the card, which is a really nice way of framing it. And that's the point that I'm trying to make with this trick. You can frame it and perform it in so many different ways. I like really building up the impossibility of this trick. I think just turning around to somebody and saying, name a card, is too weak for this trick, because this trick's strength, in my opinion, is that it can be literally any card that's named. So you'll see in the presentation, I make a big deal of that. I say, hey, you know what? I don't want you saying later on, I made you pick a particular card. If you want to go for a very obvious card, that's fine. But don't say to me later on. I kind of go down that line, which is a really engaging presentation, because they don't expect a magician to say that. And when you do start saying that, it really kind of makes them think. And, afterwards they'll come to me and they'll go, how did you know I was going to pick that card? How did you know I really tried to make it? Did you double bluff me? And this trick, more than any other trick, really kind of has that moment. Now, as well as that, the other thing to point out about this deck is the way that the principle is used. And knowledgeable magicians are going to understand the principle at play here. I'm not going to go through it, but knowledgeable magicians are going to go through the principle. But the way that the principle is used within this trick is a much better way than normally is used, which makes the trick a lot easier to handle. I'm not going to say any more than that, but it is a very, very clever thing that Richard has done here with the construction of this deck. Now, I gave this 100% when I did the 5x5, and in all honesty, I think I was selling it short a little bit. I think it should get way more than 100%. So I'm going to give it 120%. That's right, this is for me what Alakazam is to Ryland, 120%. This trick is phenomenal, and always gets a great reaction. I will say one more thing. Genuinely, people, the fact that the deck cannot be examined is totally not an issue. I always do it where I deal the cards into the spectator's hands. And the cards on the table, the ones with the writing on, if they're going to want to examine anything, that's what they examine. They don't even bother with the deck. They don't even care about the deck. I just hold the deck in my hand. In all the years of performing this, I've never had anyone say, let me have a look at that deck. And trust me, and hopefully you've noticed this from some of the videos I do, I have performed in some really, really tough environments. So honestly, the deck thing isn't an issue. Let's have a look at the live performance footage. And I'll do a commentary track over the top just so you can see my thought process behind performing this trick. And then we're going to move on to another routine. So this was actually filmed and performed at a corporate event. There were about 300 people that spent the entire day doing death by PowerPoint, and now they were allowed to let their hair down. So it's very loud. There was music playing quite loudly. It's very low lighting. And more importantly, as well as low lighting, it's actually a free bar. So everybody was getting kind of drunk. So you need to grab their attention. Now notice when you're performing, you're going to have lots of people whose hands are unavailable because they're holding a drink or they're doing something. You want to try and, I really do think with any card, it's important to put the pack of cards in somebody's hand from the very, very beginning. I don't want them to think that the deck is getting switched or anything. And also I think with this trick especially, it's important you've got that clarity of focus. It's important that they understand that you've made a prediction, you've turned the 4 aces over, and then the person that you ultimately are going to have pick a card, it is vitally important that they have a free choice of card. Now you can see here, I know that there's going to be some magicians that watch this that go, oh, you're going over the top. Just get them to say name a card. And that's fine if that's your style, if you're very kind of in the mindset of doing a presentation where there's not that much talking, that's absolutely fine. But I personally prefer, especially with a routine like this, where you build up the impossibility of what they're about to see. And I don't want people afterwards talking about, oh, he picked that card. Now also notice, I'm surrounded. You can see people from the one side, but there's also people on the other side as well. As you can see, I'm looking and talking to them. I try to, even though I'm performing for one particular person, I'm trying to involve everybody from every single angle. And that can involve looking at them in the eyes, that can involve asking them a question, passing the card box to somebody to getting them to hold, that sort of thing. So now, I've explained about the aces, and so now I'm going to up-jug the 4 aces. And this is really, if you think about any card, this is the only move in the whole routine. And it's really important you don't make a big deal of it. I've spoken to magicians before that say, oh, I'm really nervous about this point. There's no reason to be nervous. The audience doesn't know what's going to happen, and you shouldn't run if you're not being chased. But this is the moment that we need to build up right now. And I want you to watch the reaction from the audience, because they still, at this point, don't really know what's going on. And then this is where you're going to hit them in the teeth. And this is why this trick is so good. Because having the marks on the back of the cards is a visual, it's a visual permanent proof that you knew what their card is. And I love that the first card you turn over is the, because it kind of makes people go, oh no. And then you turn the cards over one at a time, and you get the final card, and it's absolutely killer. Like, it gets such a great reaction every single time, even from an audience where people aren't really paying attention, or it's a free bar. It's still something that hits, and it hits hard, and it hits hard every single time. It's why it's so highly recommended. So the final thing that we're going to be looking at today, the last thing that we're going to be looking at today, is Clued Up. Clued Up by Alakazam. Now, I'll tell you right now, Ryland's favourite trick that Alakazam have ever put out is Clued Up. He absolutely loves Clued Up with a passion. It's by, if you don't know it, it was marketed about a year ago from Alakazam Magic. It's still available directly through them, and it was created by the legend himself, Mr. Jamie Dawes. Now, Jamie is a behemoth when it comes to creating magic. The guy's an absolute legend, and this is kind of a departure from Jamie. Normally, Jamie has something to do with zombies or witches or evil or dark or something like that. But this is kind of based on the kids' game Cluedo, and I think that's why Ryland loves it so much. He loves Cluedo. He loves anything like that. So Clued Up is a really great premise. It's basically designed to replicate playing a game of Cluedo. It's Cluedo, isn't it? Yeah, playing a game of Cluedo, but with you being able to predict everything that's going on. And if you've ever played Cluedo, and what makes this game so interesting is that at the beginning you take 3 cards and you put them in an envelope, and those 3 cards tell you the killer, tell you the weapon, and tell you the location that the murder has taken place. And then you play the game, right? And you have to try and guess what's in the envelope. So it makes absolute logical sense to have an envelope put down and you say that's the solution. And then you go through the very clever procedure that Jamie has put together to get to them, you know, working out who the murderer was. And then you've got this kicker at the end, which kind of shows that you were able to influence them from the very beginning. So that's the trick. Now, I'm going to show you a live performance of Ryland doing it. Now, this is done in my office, which is, and I know some people are going to go, well, hang on a minute, in your office? That's not a review show special. It is for Ryland. Ryland's been very busy the last 2 months for various different reasons that I can't. He's been busy, and he's been really, really busy. So because he's been so busy, it's been very hard to get him out to various different gigs, and the gigs that he does go and do, you know, I can't pull a camera out without getting the client's permission, and a lot of the time that's not the case. So I have a restaurant where I live, managed by my friend, and I can go there anytime I want to, but Ryland's been too busy to even go over there. So I wanted to include him in the review show special. So I said, look, let's get all of the staff, well, not all of them, but I needed somebody to answer the phones and deal with the stuff. So I said, let's get a few of the staff into one of the boardrooms, sit them down in there and get Ryland to do a couple of tricks in there. Ryland, that is kind of an environment for Ryland that's very much a real world, because he doesn't know the people in the office very well, and so going in there and performing that for them, you know, you're going to be able to see it being done to real audiences. And I told everybody, I said, look, they know what a review show revisited it is, obviously, because they work for me. So I said, look, if you hate it, I want you to react accordingly. Don't just like react well because it's Ryland. That's very important, which they wouldn't anyway. So yeah, there you go. That's that's why it's taking place in my office, just to give you a frame of reference there. Now you understand that, let's roll the footage and let's have a look at Ryland's performance of Clue.
You know the game Clue, though? Mm-hmm. I've got this, but it's the travel edition, Clued Up.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I'm just going to take these out, but this is the up addiction for the room that they were killed in, the weapon and the suspect.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do green first, which I forgot which one it is. It is location. Green is location.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to have 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so in here we've got the lounge.
Okay.
And in here we've got the studio. And in this one we've got the games room.
Yep.
Okay. And then we'll do the next one is feel like it's suspect. No, it's weapon. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Number 1.
Number 1. Okay. So it's not poison. They weren't killed by poison. They weren't killed by the candlestick. And they weren't killed by the rope.
Okay.
And then which means the last one, orange, is going to be suspect. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
I'm going to go for number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's it wasn't Miss Peacock. It wasn't Mr. Green. And it isn't Colonel Mustard.
Okay.
So that means you got, so the suspect was Miss Scarlet.
So yeah.
Forgot which one this is. It's weapon. This, the person was killed by a revolver.
Okay.
And then the last one, which is they were killed in the kitchen. Now I influenced you to get there.
No.
I didn't, no. That's Miss Scarlet
What?
holding the gun.
Oh.
In the back is Scarlet with the revolver.
How have you done
In the
that?
kitchen. Look, here's the evidence. The evidence has got Miss Scarlet in the kitchen with the revolver.
I'm a genius.
Yeah, you are actually, yeah. That's amazing.
That's so good.
So there you go. I mean, that's a great performance, right? I mean, I absolutely love that routine. We gave it a great review. Ryland gave it 120%, for sure. It's Alakazam. I think I gave it 100%. I did this a lot during virtual. When I was doing virtual shows, I did this a lot. This is perfect for virtual shows. Just saying that because we're still getting virtual bookings. If you're still getting virtual bookings, this is a great trick to do virtually. But it's also really good to do live. Now, the one negative to bear in mind is you are going to need a table. Okay, for sure. You don't need a table mat or a close-up pad or anything like that, but you are going to need a table. So that's something to bear in mind. But in terms of the actual trick, the hook is so good because every single person in the world has heard of this game. Every single person. You don't have to explain, well, these cards are everybody knows. They've all played this game. So you immediately don't have to worry about like setting the premise, and the hook is really strong because immediately you can say, well, who used to play Cluedo when they were a kid? Who still plays Cluedo? Who's got kids now and they play Cluedo with the kids? It's an amazing game, isn't it? Well, let me show you something. It's one of my favorite games to play with my kids. Let me show you something, and then you go into the whole premise. And you know, I think there's going to be some magicians that are going to watch this trick and they're going to go, oh, that method's transparent. But genuinely, it's not. It is not a transparent method at all. In fact, exactly the opposite. It is a super strong, super powerful method that flies past every single spectator in the world. They never see it coming. They never see it coming because it feels such a free choice. It reminds me a little bit of Executive Suite by Alakazam. The methodology behind it is a similar methodology to that. Completely different trick, but a similar methodology. And that methodology just works. And until you've tried it in the real world, you won't know. It gets great reactions. People really buy into it. It's a very strong mentalism trick. But here's what I don't want you to do. Don't overlook the thing with the box at the end. So you've done the whole routine. People react and you go, well, I influenced you. I asked you to look at the box at the beginning. And everything's on the box. And that moment in that routine is almost a little bit like the Sixth Sense. You know, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that. How did I not see that? It almost takes them aback. It goes from being, oh, that's a really good trick. That's a really what? It really, I originally kind of overlooked the box thing. And then when I actually started doing the box and putting that in as a kicker, it makes it so strong. And I didn't realise it would make it as strong as it does, but it does. So yeah, I mean, it's a killer routine. The only other negative to bear in mind is the reset is about 60 seconds long. So if you work in restaurants, that's not a problem. If you work in a busy corporate gig and you want to do this, it can be, you know, you need a 60-second period to reset it. Other than that, and, you know, the cards can't really be examined, but they can examine the cards that are in the solution envelope. And again, just like with the any card, that's really what they what they focus on, if that kind of makes sense. They focus on the cards that have been in the envelope that they've been holding on to the whole time. So yeah, Ryland gave it 120%. I gave it 100%. I'm up in my percentage. I'm going to give it 115%. No, 120. Screw it. I've performed this in so many different gigs. I've performed this in kids shows, kills. I've done this in close-up situations, kills. I've done this in a virtual show, kills. I've even done it once in a parlour. Now, it's not part of my regular parlour act, but I was in this old kind of mansion type thing, and it was all themed to Cluedo. It was November time, I think, and it was all themed. It was a themed party. It was a birthday party. There were about 15 people there. They hired the whole mansion out or whatever it is for the birthday party. So they'd taken over the whole thing. Each person had their own bedroom, and they were doing a murder mystery later on in the evening, and it was all themed to Cluedo. So they had Professor Plum and this person and that person, and they wanted a magic show from me. before the evening entertainment took place. And I was like, well, if I'm ever going to do this trick, now is the time to do it. So yeah, fantastic trick, absolutely amazing. I'm upping it to 120%, and it's highly, highly, highly recommended. You can get it from Alakazam, directly from Alakazam. It's not really available anywhere else, but you can get it from alakazam.co.uk and alakazam.com. So with that in mind, let's have a look at the performance footage of Ryland doing it one more time, and I'll just talk over the top about what I think about what he did. So this is the routine, and one of the things I really like about this trick is the hook. Because like I said before, everybody knows who Cluedo is, and it kind of makes sense that this would be a travel edition of Clue. Now, one of my favourite things is the callback to the box, and me and Ryland handle it quite differently to what I've seen before. So it's kind of an important thing at the beginning to just point out the box and let them see it without kind of making a big deal out of it. So the original, so what you do is you put the envelope with the solution into one side. Now Ryland just put it on the table, which is fine. I personally like to give the envelope to somebody to hold on to, because I tend to find that if they hold on to it, it's a little bit better. Ryland disagrees, and the reason he disagrees is he says, well, you wouldn't give the solution envelope in Cluedo to somebody to hold on to. You just put it to one side. So, you know, I think it's better to do it that way because you're replicating Cluedo, which kind of makes sense. But I prefer to give it to somebody, but, you know, there's no right or wrong. Now, also, I want you to notice that in the download, if you've got this, Jamie talks about how you can adapt the envelopes and make them look a little bit better, and you get extra artwork. And both me and Ryland have got this trick, and we both kind of agree that that's not the best way to do this. You know, we prefer to just have the plain envelopes that they suggest you have, really, to be perfectly honest. Now, the other thing that you want to notice is that it's really important that they understand that they have a completely free choice. And if they think that there's any force whatsoever, it's nowhere near as good. So that's kind of really, really important there. Now, when you've got through the whole procedure, and there is quite a lot of procedure, which is why you want to kind of rush through this bit, you then notice that Ryland brings the envelopes back. Now, notice as he was putting the envelopes to one side, he was turning them over, and the reason for that is that way you don't have to turn them over later on. That time misdirection makes it a lot fairer, if that kind of makes sense. It makes it feel a lot more fair than doing it any other way. But anyway, so you bring out the envelopes that they're left with, and you point out that they had a free choice, and that's really important. Now, this is where the way that Ryland and I do it differs to the way that I've ever seen anyone else do this routine. Normally, you open the solution envelope and you show the solution, and then you do the callback to the box. Both myself and Ryland, we actually point out the box first of all, and you can see the reaction there from the spectators, that they think that that's the trick, and it's kind of like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And, you know, it allows you to say, well, I influenced you. Did you feel like you had a free choice? Well, I influenced you. Yeah, look at the box. And that kind of hits them in the face, and then you get to the point where you open up the envelope and you can show that the solution was completely correct. And then you notice at the end, Ryland subtly turns the backs of the cards over to show them as normal. And notice they're not reaching for the envelopes. Nobody ever does. It's a really strong moment, and it's just a really great trick. And I think it's gone a little bit under the radar, and it's a shame because it genuinely is one of the best tricks that I did in my virtual shows, and it fits in so many different environments. So there you go, guys. That's another review show revisited in the bag. Do me a favour, let me know what you think. I love putting these together. As I say, it is one of the longest videos that I do. I can't do them every single week, but I love doing them. I want to know from you what you think. Do you enjoy watching them? Let me know in the comments down below. I love reading all your comments. It's physically impossible. It's a full-time job to answer all of the comments that come through on this channel. I try my absolute best. But it's next to impossible, to be honest. But I love reading all of your comments. So leave a comment down below. If you want to see more videos like this, remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. We're coming into the weekend right here on Magic TV. And the weekend is super exciting because we've got 8 videos in 2 days. So on Saturday at 12 o'clock, we have an honest trailer. At 2 o'clock, we have have a shorts. And thank you so much for the riddle love. You guys are really digging the riddles. I just wanted to try and do something different for a few weeks. So I'm glad that you're liking the riddles. Thank you. At 6 o'clock, I'm going to Magic Live. And at 9 o'clock, I have an interview with one of the greatest mentalists of all time, the one and only Luca Volpe. He talks business. He talks mentalism. He is incredible. Then on Sunday, we have again, at 12 o'clock, we have a Q&A, which is one of the most popular videos on the channel. At 2 o'clock, we have a shorts. At 6 o'clock, we have a live. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm back here with a review show special. And I'm looking at 2 products this week. I'm trying something different with the review show special. So make sure you check all those stuff out. Thank you very much for joining me on Magic TV. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.